Hey guys, how you going? SpanishGerm669, Adam. I'm here for another review, so hopefully you had a great New Year's Day, and the actual year itself will be a very good one for you. So the film I've chosen to review today is an American horror film. I don't usually go for these, but a lot of hype has been surrounding it, and it's been regarded as one of the better horror films from America in the recent years. So expectation levels were fairly high, and I was really hoping that it could deliver. It was released in 2010, so it's very recent, directed by Jim Mickey, and this movie is called Stakeland. So the story to Stakeland is as follows. America is lost in the darkness and decay of a vampire epidemic as survivors cling together in rural pockets, fearful of sunset and the vicious feral beasts that define their living nightmares. When 17-year-old Martin is orphaned after a marauding vampire destroys his family, he is taken under the dusty wing of a battle-weary grifter called Mister. Bonded by a glimmer of hope, they forge a formidable fighting team and travel from town to fortified town, joined by a displaced nun, a pregnant woman, and a disillusioned marine, in search of a far-off frontier called New Eden. Surrounded by hungry vampires and the opposing force of a fundamentalist militia known as the Brethren, the stakes are well and truly raised for a bloody battle royale in what has been audaciously described as the road on supernatural steroids. So basically what we have, it is like The Road in the fact that it's an apocalyptic world in America, but in this film it's been taken over by a vampire virus. Now everybody's a vampire, but there are a few survivors, and they are fighting their way through America to this place called New Eden. Now New Eden is a safe haven for anyone who survived, and so we have a teenager whose parents had been killed by a vampire, and we have a vampire hunter and a few other people that have joined this survivors group, and they have to battle their way through the vampire zone. And at night, obviously, they have to contend with the vampires, and by day, they have to contend with a fanatical religious group known as the Brotherhood. So they have a lot of problems. This surviving group, they've got to dodge, a lot of obstacles. But whether or not they make it to the New Eden, that's something that you're going to have to find out for yourself, because I'm not going to give that away. Now, my thoughts on the film. As I said, this has been regarded as one of the better American horror films, and it really has. It's been said that it has revived the horror genre in America. So I was really hoping for something really cool, and I'm a big fan of the film The Road. I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was one of the most depressing stories ever told, and I know that one was based on a novel. I haven't read the novel, but I really, really like The Road, and to say that this is like The Road, that's a big call. And I thought, I was really hoping, fingers crossed, that it could deliver something like The Road. Unfortunately for me, this one was a victim of overhype, and I was really, really disappointed by what I got. Now, I will say the good things. It did have a very good atmosphere. The post-apocalyptic sort of world that it wanted to create was very believable, and I thought the vampires looked really good. They were very vicious. It kind of reminded, they weren't as good as the vampires in 30 Days of Night, but they did have a very intimidating presence, so it's nothing like the Twilight vampires. And I thought that the makeup effects for the vampires was really, really good. Also, on top of that, not only did they have to defeat these vampires, they also had to contend with the religious fanatics, and I thought they were a really good inclusion in the film, because not only did they have to avoid, the dangers at night, but during the day they were also in a lot of trouble. So I really liked that inclusion, and I thought, for the most part, that brotherhood, that fanatical religious group, were really, really intimidating, and you really did fear the roads during the day. So it added just a little bit more, an extra sort of fear to the overall feel. The acting was so-so. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad, which, I could kind of believe the characters. I didn't like the main character, but I'll go about that later. The cinematography, very, very good. It had the same sort of dreaded feel of hopelessness that you get in The Road, and you kind of feel that New Eden, which is the safe haven that could provide something a little bit more lighter, but they have to go through their hell. And the cinematography really did bring the viewer inside the hell that these characters were going through. The gore, it's not a gory film, but when it's not overly gory, I should say. It's only MA 15 plus, But there were some pretty good scenes of violence, and there were some touching scenes of violence as well, in that you really felt sorry for the situation that they were in. So it didn't overdo the violence, but when the violence happened, it will keep gorehounds satisfied. So yeah, there are things to like about the film, but judging, the hype surrounding it, it really failed to match it. Now, I'll go through and say that I didn't like the characters. There wasn't enough development for the characters. The main character, who was a teenager, I felt for him because he wasn't an adult, but that was pretty much it. I didn't really like his personality, and I really didn't care whether or not he survived. Now, that could be something only with me. Maybe I'm just a cold bastard who just didn't care. But I really thought that it would have been a lot better with a little bit more development. The main vampire hunter, he was a tough guy. He didn't show any emotion. I really didn't take a liking to him, so once again, I really didn't care whether he lived or died. The only person I cared about in the whole group were two people, the Marine and the nun. They were the only really likeable people in there. So you only had a fear for those two, but as far as the rest go, I really didn't think they were very likeable, which is where The Road succeeded so much, in that Viggo Mortensen and his son were so likeable, and you really wanted to see them through this hell. But that just added a lot more impact. But unfortunately for this film, the character development just wasn't as strong as The Road. Then we've got the ending. It does give you hope. That's kind of a spoiler, sorry, but it does give you some kind of hope, but I'm not giving away too much. I didn't really like it. I thought it was a very, I don't know, it wasn't a typical ending, but it was an ending that you'd expect from an American film. It didn't really have too much balls to it. It was not a foreign ending. You could tell, that it was very American. The narration of the film reminded me a lot of Zombieland. Although it wasn't comical, I really didn't see the need of the narration. I thought the narration pointed out things that were obvious, and it really didn't leave too much subtlety. When the sad things happened, the narration told you about it, so it was really just pointing at things that it would have been better if the viewer can make up their own mind, whether or not they're sad or they just couldn't care. The music, the score, it was okay in parts, but overused in some other parts. So I thought, the subtleties that foreign movies have was missing in this American one. Everything, I've been told time and time again that American audiences need to be told and explained everything. And this is where, one of the negatives for me in this film is that there was nothing that was left up to the viewer to make up their minds. It was all told and explained. And it was said that, in black and white, this is how it is. But, in foreign films, that's not always the case, and that's what I really like about foreign films. And unfortunately for this one, that was one of its negatives. And overall, the negatives outweigh the positives, unfortunately. I liked a few things about it, especially this, well, actually, I'm not going to say it, but it involves helicopters and vampires. I thought that was really, really cool. So there are saving, points to the film that, save it from being a disaster. But as far as I'm concerned, I just expected a whole lot better, and it really didn't, deliver to my expectations. I thought, there was a villain at the end that kind of got a little bit ridiculous, and once again, it reeked of what was wrong with Hollywood horror. And unfortunately, the goods don't outweigh the negatives. So, will I recommend this film? Yes, I'm going to recommend it. It does have its qualities that make it worth watching, but just don't go into it with high expectations, because, in my opinion, it falls well short of what it's built up to be. Alright guys, that's my review of Stateland. Hopefully it made sense, and it helps you in your decision of whether or not you want to watch it. So yeah, that's my review. I hope you have a great day. Take care, stay safe, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.